Hello, anybody, somebody, nobody. Whoever may never see this is Siegfried Alexander Faust, the Whiff. Come back at you with some more Warhammer 40k. I've been meaning to make a tier list for a while now to kind of like talk about the new changes that have come out with the new 2023 data slate, the FAQ, the point changes for the compendium, and for the I should say the Militarum field manual, and other expected things. And so I'm going to be doing more Warhammer content shortly. I actually am still very busy trying to get a good job, and so I don't have as much time as I would like. And you'll notice quickly that the pictures here are very scuffed. That's because I suck and I'm an idiot. It just took. I was trying to get pictures, and the tier system is good. It's fast, but it's not as good as I would like for being more streamlined and quick to do things for like having a set image size, or if it does, I don't know it. So I'd like to talk about for the tabletop wise where I think the factions are right now. Some of this is similar to other people's, maybe a bit different, but I was going to go through every faction and give my thoughts. So, I'm going to start from the Nope and Nerf, and then from there, I'll probably go buff. Yeah, I'll go buff, Nope, Nerf. Yeah, sure. So, the two factions I think need just a small buff are World Eaters and Gene Stealer Cult. Gene Stealer Cult has had this issue where you can still, even now, bring a Brood Brothers detachment of Imperial Guard, and from what I was able to read, you could bring a command platoon squad and a Primaris Psyker, and be able to get some Psyker abilities from that Primaris, and then with that command platoon squad, you could bring a Master of Ordnance, and his ability still works. You can't give out regimental orders, but his ability will still work. And so you can bring two artilleries, and then have their artilleries units get reroll ones for free, which is kind of neat. Originally, I was hoping I'd be able to bring 3, but since it's a patrol, you'd be capped at 2. I would thought it would have been hilarious if you could straight up do an Arc of Omen. I'm like, oh god. As soon as I thought about that, I'm like, okay, so it's 3 Manticores and then 3 Hydralisks or something, just a 6 artillery. And that was also before I saw the they stole away Guard's indirect fire, because Guard was the only one that didn't have the indirect fire penalty, which was kind of weird. Tau had the penalty, but Guard didn't. Like, that was really weird. I kind of feel like artillery maybe still should, but it's iffy, because then you'll just get a lot of nonsense. So, Gene Stealer Cult, the reason I bring that up is because I was actually bringing over half my army was Imperial Guard as Brood Brothers, because a lot of the cult stuff just doesn't shine out to me. It's not that great. It's the Tau Marker Light situation, which I'll use that explanation a lot, which is that anytime you have to spend, you have to make your army not suck. And that goes into what I'll talk about Craftworld Eldar as well. You have to combo to make your stuff not suck, and it's just to make it not suck, not to make it OP, which is Imperial Guard Astra Militarum right now. So Gene Stealer Cult, their shooting is nothing to write home about compared to many other factions, and their melee can be decent, but you can't bring as much of the melee stuff as I would like, and they had some cool mechanics with the ambush and underground, but it's just not enough to write home about. I think they need not a generous buff, but just something. And I'll just say this now, for every faction, I feel like almost every faction in the game could use more uniqueness. I don't like my meta most effective tactics available for Warhammer 40k is, oh, well, this thing's really good, so I'm going to bring 3 of it. And people are like, oh, you shouldn't use a rocket launcher when you're PvPing in a video game. That's not fair. Well, yeah, but you're dead and I'm not, so why would I not do this? Otherwise, I'd be dead like you. Any kind of shooter, stuff like that. And, they can make other arguments, but, if that's going over your fucking head, my point is that for a lot of these armies, you have something good, you usually want to bring 3 of it, or at least 2. I think they should pull a rule of 2, a little Sith thing, or make a bonus if you don't have any duplicate data sheets in your army list, then you should get some other bonus. I think that'd be really cool. Not 1 CP, it has to be something worth actually considering, 2 or 3 CP. If you have everything different, I think that'd be super, super cool. And, people still don't have to do it. You wouldn't even have to do it, but it's an option to incentivize building differently. My god, that'd be awesome. World Eaters, I think they need a buff, but they have their codex coming up, and so ironically they'll go to average if not competitive when their codex comes out. So currently they need a buff, but like it doesn't really matter because they're about to be really good. So now going down to F tier, nope. I have Raven Guard, Nurgle Demons, Slanesh Demons, Death Guard, Craft World, and Imperial Fist. Sorry for any heavy breathing. So Raven Guard, just nothing to write home about. Their chapter tactic isn't that great compared to some of the other stuff. And their successor chapter stuff, it doesn't really like shine out to me. The one thing that's funny with Raven Guard, unlike the other stuff, is I run, and these are also based on my lists that I've made that are going to be on this channel. I'm going to upload to Google Drive when this video comes out, so people could just check all these updated Arc of Omen detachment lists, etc. I think I have one or two lists that are technically not Arc of Omen, because it's better not to be. I don't recall. But yeah. Yeah, so Raven Guard, yeah, they have eliminators. That's fucking funny. So you can bibbity-bop people's characters. And you can win with any of these armies easily. But if your opponent just puts their characters in obscuring, or just surrounds them, then, or maybe they only have one, it's not even a big deal. Like, you're not getting any value out of this shit. Like, what's the point? Or if they somehow kill your eliminators and other stuff, like, it's just a lot of the out of these armies, all of the factions, if you can't make, let's say all Space Marines. If all Space Marines are the same, and they're just different flavor/colors, then what's the difference? The difference is, for the most part, the big difference is if they have, well, two. If they have any unique stuff, which is the minor one. The big one is their detachment rules, which can give them a secondary bonus. Now, there's also chapter tactic, but all their chapter tactics aren't as good as detachment rules usually, and you can also do successor, which is custom, and you can kind of mix and match as well. With that said, the Raven Guard, you can't really change chapter tactic to compensate for the detachment rules to be better. Now, the reason to play Gene Stealer Cult, yeah, let me go back and just do that now. Gene Stealer Cult is, you know, for all these armies, lore is awesome. But if you want to run a bunch of small 5-man squads or one model unit squads that do different things and just be all over the table. You don't have like 3 to 4 10-man blobs of Terminators and be like, here's my army. You just have a bunch of vehicles and little dudes all over the place on a bunch of characters buffing. And so that's Gene Stealer Cult, and you're all ambushed and deep striked. World Eaters, you run in and you melee like a monster. Raven Guard, you bibbity-bop your opponent's characters, you snipe the fuck out of them, and you use the snipers to go forward and back, and they have a much better chance to actually be effective with their snipers, and that's why you run them. So if you actually run snipers, you could do snipers in like a few factions. If you ran a shit ton of snipers as rangers, you could do that for Admech, Raven Guard, and then there's probably one or two other things, but honestly, it's Raven Guard. Raven Guard's the good one. And so if you really want to be super stupid and lean into it, you can run a bunch of the assassins as well. You could run 2 Vanguard detachments and have no relics or warlord traits to get 2 other Vindicare assassins. And be like, behold! Snipers! Your characters will now get deleted. Goodbye. Nurgle Demons. Nurgle Demons, compared to the other 4 demons, which, yes, 4, because there's Demon Undivided, and that is worth considering. So it's on the list as 44 factions. You know, they're slow, they're a bit tougher, but you need to get into combat. They don't have real, like, they actually have one of the better range things, Corn Cannon and the Soul Grinder. Soul Grinder is a tough boy. If your opponent just has, like, they need T5 mass shooting, or strength 5 quantity, or they need like Melta and las cannons to deal with that thing. That thing is a beast, and it has 3 of them. Like, that's the coolest thing, is Nurgle Soul Grinder is insane. I love it. Everything else, crap, utter shit. Great unclean one. T9, cool, but dude's a chungus. And of course, as he loses wounds, he gets even slower. It's You just need to rush an objective, advance him round 1, and maybe round 2. Your opponent doesn't like lean into you, just to get to an objective so you can just sit there. And you just sit there and try to outcontest them. Your opponent is going to come to you, they're going to get all the shooting, they're going to get charge, and hopefully you can weather a storm. I put in some boat flies, but it's not enough to compensate giving your opponent just the initiative on everything for the most part. Slaanesh Demons, better than Nurgle, but just not as good as Tzeentch and Khorne. And I think they are actually not at buff tier. They're nope tier because their troop choice, all the others have troop, which means they have obsec. Even Nurgle troop has obsec, but Slaanesh, I think it's better just not to run their troops, and then you don't even get obsec. And so they're in between buff and nope, honestly. I didn't want to make a bunch of micro tiers because I don't want to be that much of a neckbeard about it. I just wanted to give my thoughts. And I think because you can't really like go through buildings if you build the list the way I did, which is a very good fighty list and it's very fast. And so you just have to make the best use of obscuring for round 1, and then round 2 you're gonna fuck somebody up badly. But it has a lot of niche problems. I almost want to change the list. I might later tonight just to throw in 1 or 2 things of demonettes just so they can get into buildings, because it is a legitimate issue for the army. Let's see, Death Guard. So Death Guard have, for the longest time, I always thought been cool and decent, if not good. I remember people were complaining about him, and then they just got like 2 buffs in a row. It's like, what? Death Guard are weird because quantity, again, strength 5 quantity just dumps on them because they reduce damage, but you don't care because damage 1. But they're slow boys, relatively. But the thing is a lot of the top tier competitive and A lists, so B and A tier, have Melta power. Melta power or psychic, and it just shreks through them. And while the Plague Burst Crawler is good, the fact that it also, like as an artillery, lost its indirect fire, it got a penalty. It didn't lose it, but just took a penalty, is pretty painful. Since Armor of Contempt is gone, they've gone even squishier. I think their Terminators are a bit of a trap. And I threw in controversial choice. I threw in a bunch of Mephitic Blight Haulers. That makes the army a bit strange. If your opponent has Melta, you're going to have a bad time. If your opponent doesn't have Melta, you're cruising. You're doing fine. Yeah, and so even if they have Melta, you could possibly weather the storm, but yeah, I don't know. I might change the list up a bit more again, but it's just, I feel like they just need more love. A lot more love. Craftworld. So Craftworld Eldar, unlike all their cousins and shit, yeah, they have Psychic. I think this is this is the only big Psychic faction that's down in F tier. Because they just need so much to combo. And so if your opponent is Sisters or they have any denies, you just roll bad. You don't get all your combos for your Psychic shit. If your characters die, a lot of your army just turns to poop. Or if you lose the thing you're supposed to be buffing, well then what do you do now? I guess I'll just do Smite. You still have that option, which is nice, but just so many other armies will shrek Craftworld. They are definitely better, I think, than, you know what? Okay. You know, oh, that's right. I took an image of this. The Craft World is actually going to be in D tier. I forgot that I saved this as an image because I was having problems with my under display. I think it's like porn kept popping up as an ad. I'm like, yeah, this could be a problem if I record and stream. So, yeah, and if someone's chatting in chat right now, I'm sorry, I don't have a pull up because of the nature of how I'm streaming this. So, Craft World, they are between D and F as well, bottom D. because their Strands of Fate is good, but it's just other factions. Whatever you could do, I could do better. And so it's just, they don't shine out to me, unfortunately. I think they need point drops at least. If not, something else. Maybe. And the Imperial Fists. GW has said that they will be buffing bolters. To what degree, I don't know. If it's giving all bolters plus 1 AP. Or what they plan to do with that shit. The thing is that Imperial Guard is also strange. It's like the Death Guard. If your opponent doesn't have Melta, they're fucked. And especially if they're melee, and if they're damaged, all their stuff is damaged too. They're fucked. All their shit's turning to damage 1, and you want to be in melee anyway, and they're gonna be wounding you on like 5-ups for all their shit for the most part. It's great. Imperial Fists, depending on what they fight, they're actually B tier. Or debatably A. It's hilarious. So, fun fact, Harlequins. You know what was a good faction to counter Harlequins? Imperial Fists. But nobody was playing them. You just have a volley, an absolute volley of firepower, because you didn't care about their invul. Their invul works just as if it was a Melta. And you're wounding them on 3-ups versus a Melta is on 2s. But you're hitting twice as much, and they're all 1 wound. Or 3 times as much. It's just so much better. And so, ironically, that was an anti-meta faction when Harlequins were tearing up the tournaments. But nobody was really playing them. Because they don't shine. They seem kind of boring. Compared to the other stuff that has a lot more jingling keys, flashing light stuff going on. And it's just, it's not quality. It's not super big cannon stuff. The army's based on Death by Bolter. They're the Imperial Fist for Lasgun, but for Space Marines. And that's similar to World Eaters, where there is a confirmed buff coming up. We just don't know what it is yet. But that'll either move them to D or C, and then they might need more depending. Now, with that said, let me go to let me finish talk about that. So Nurgle Demons, you'd play them. I don't remember if I went over it. If you just want to be slow chonkers and just be like, come at me, bro. And you're going to move your demons to sit on an objective and just be chilling. If you want to have a bit of an AFK game, but you want to play as fat, Nurgle, stinky demon pus boys. Slaanesh demons, you've got to go fast. Ish. With Slaaneshis. And then, because you need to use their demon ability to try to get them to go faster. Death Guard waxes and wanes with buffs and nerfs. They're almost actually like, if they get a big buff, they'll go straight back to C tier. So you could probably pick them up and play them, kind of like Nurgle Demons, but if you want to be evil Space Marines instead, Jock Warriors, then you could do that, because they're going to get good again. Craft World are beautiful. They're interesting. They're cool. And I like how the army plays, which seems super critical, like in talking about them. On paper, no, because they have just crucial flaws. But the way you'd play Craft World is if you just want to, like, if your opponent's trying to throw a big spooky elite thing at you, and you'd be like, yes, those are 10 jacked up Terminators. I will see your Terminators, and I will beat them with my Howling Banshees. By the way, my Howling Banshees will now have +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Your save gets 1 worse. I reroll all hits. I reroll all wounds. And, let's fucking go. And have a bunch of mortals. And so, like, and exploding hits, extra AP, all kinds of stuff. So, Craft World, and then, of course, Fire and Fade. My vehicle comes in, shoots your vehicle. Oh, but now I can shoot your vehicle on my turn. Oh, yeah, about that, my vehicle is going to move again and hide. Obscuring, da-da-da-da-da. So the thing is that faction goes heavy on leaning on obscuring for their vehicles, depending on the terrain. The terrain can massively affect Craft World because of their Fire and Fade and vehicles. And whether or not your opponent is going to, for a lot of armies, something to consider, well, what's stopping your opponent from deep striking you, shooting you, and charging you, and psychicking you? Whether or not you have the ability to compensate and deal with that and prevent it, and kind of like void them out 9 to 12 inches, or no. Imperial Fists, if you just want to spam bolters and Space Marines, you can run even Terminators, so you guaranteed get bolter discipline. But something that's random, that's like no one's really giving a shit about, is Stun God. The Stun God veterans, the Stun God anti-Tyranids. They have much better shooting, and even though the Incursors got the War Gear switch up, so now you can run Plasma, which I do run for a couple. Run the Bolter for Imperial Fists because it's a fucking Bolter. So now each squad does a 5-man squad of, what is that, Incursors, I think? Incursors or Inceptors, I always forget. They do 30 shots for 5 dudes, but again, 6s explode. They're all Strength 5, AP 1, which once you go round 2 with the Doctrine change for Space Marines, you're just going to stay in Tactical for the rest of the game. And all your rapid fire and assault is just going to be getting extra AP. So now that's AP 2 bolters. Oh god. Oh, I love it. I might play an Imperial Fist. Like, I'm really thinking about it now. I just think it's funny. I don't know. I like the Banana Boys. All right. So, let's talk about Iron Hands and Astra Militarum, aka Imperial Guard. Iron Hands have a problem. The problem is they get mono/unit wide. As long as it's Iron Hands, it has Iron Hand Space Marine, reroll the hit roll of 1. So you have global captain aura for everything, which captain, again, is for core. So this is even better. This is almost Chapter Master level. Debatably better, because Chapter Master is still core. So what you can do is you can do this on some big spooky dreadnoughts, which a lot of people do, or what I've done is I have 2 Fire Raptors. Because Fire Raptors can come in on any board edge, round 2, for strategic reserves. And for the entire game, you're going to be Devastator Doctrine. So your Fire Raptors are going to get reroll hit rolls of 1. And they're going to get extra AP. And it's so naughty. Your infantry can move and shoot with heavies without penalty as well. The Melta is just absurd for them. Like, there's 3 or 4 factions which have insane Melta. Them and Sister Sororitas in particular. Another one that's debatably out there is the new AdMech. And I think those are the 3 big Melta ones. Oh, and Salamanders. And then debatably Astra Militarum. Yeah, 4 to 5. So, Iron Hands. They're Devastator the entire game. They're disgustingly strong with the amount of Melta they bring to the table. I think mine has first round 54 Melta, and then every round after that it's 48 Melta if nothing's dead. But then there's also las cannons, which I haven't discussed. So effectively 50 Melta shots for round 1 and round 2. Like, that is disgusting. It's stupid. AP4 to AP5, because with the las cannon. And so your opponent, even if they're on like cover, they need that to get a 6, or they're not even going to have a save. A sister is going to be saved on their invul /6. If they didn't have an invul, they'd be fucked. Like, if your opponent doesn't have an invul, they don't get a save for the entire game. It's just stupid. It's just too strong right now. And because flyers can come in, they start in strategic reserve and it's free, your flyers won't be shot. So your opponent's fucking Vanquisher Cannon Imperial Guard, their Hammerhead gunships, all of their Melta shit, nope, you don't have to worry about it because they can't even shoot you. So you're going to get the initiative on that and just delete things. And it's just so absurd and obnoxious. To counter them, you need something that goes fast to just get into them round 1. So effectively, like, I don't even think White Scars, realistically, like Harlequins. Yeah, that's it. I don't even know. It's too obnoxious. It's too fucking much. It's absurd. Anyway. If you play Iron Hands, it's because you just want to nuke your opponent with overwhelming firepower. I think more people should play against Iron Hands because it's a great way to put yourself in the right mindset. Like, people should play as Craft World and Gene Stealer Cult so they can learn how to play the game good, and they should play against Iron Hands and Blood Angels so they can just get bodied in range and melee, and so they can learn how to play correctly. Um, I think honestly, if you want to learn how to get good at the game, you play Craft World Eldar or Gene Stealer Cult, and once you can figure those fucking things out, then you play against a bunch of Iron Hands and Blood Angels, get your shit pushed in, and you'll get pretty fucking good at the game pretty fucking fast as long as you don't get disheartened. Because Warhammer is a slow game. But those are just, I think that's the best way to play, because Iron Hands are just so insane right now. I've always thought they were competitive, or if better. This is just absurd right now. Astra Militarum. Astra Militarum is weird. If they nerf Kazarkin and Leontis, it's not so bad then. It's competitive still, but it's not so bad. I think there's an easy nerf for Leontis. Well, two. Well, three. One, his stats are weird. Changes points, changes stats, and then an easy fix is to make it where if he buffs and off, he can buff anything, but if he buffs whatever he buffs, his remaining buffs must be of that same thing. So if he buffs vehicle, his other two must be for vehicle. Regiment, they must be for regiment. Officer, must be for officer. If he does that, I think that would be an easy fix. And then something small for Kasserkin, and then there, it's fixed. It's literally that easy to fix Astra Militarum. Right now, they just get too many buffs. They're the Marker Light situation, but actually on crack. Actually good. Where if you buff the fuck out of them, which is more so just craft roll with multiple buffs, it's just too much. Kasserkin and Leontis buffing things like a couple Vanquishers, Gatekeeper, and the absurdity that is the Attilan Rough Riders. Attilan Rough Riders, oh, but they're easy to kill. Yeah, but they punch way above their fucking pay grade. Like, way above their bracket. They hit hard. Way too hard. They don't hit twice. They don't get twice their value. They get 3 to 4 times their value, almost. For some situations, they almost get 4 times their value, except nothing's alive that's that strong to survive. Depending on what they hit. They have stupid value potential. And the thing is, that's for hitting hard for quality. They have the quality hitting, but if they go frag tip, they have the quantity as well. So they can actually Shrek through demons and through Harlequins. Like, fuck the Kazarkin. The Rough Riders are way too efficient for their point value. So, yeah, that's another thing that people are just, again, well, it's good, so I'm going to bring as much of it as I can. You don't have to do that, of course, but competitively, that's the right mindset. You bring what you need to win. If you're on the competitive side. Casual and competitive is different for focusing fun or competitive. You can have a competitive army and have fun, but you build a competitive. And you can have a fun army and play competitive, but, you know, you should be more accepting of probably going to lose because you didn't build a competitive army. Yeah, those two factions right now are just absurd. Astra Militarum, you play them if you just want to have some vehicles, have a bunch of horse boys, you want to play army style, and just, I don't know, punch way above your pay grade for some reason. They used to be a lot more vehicle heavy, same with Iron Hands, but meta-wise, I don't think that's the way to play. I think you should only have 2 Leman Russes, if not 3. I have 3. I have a tank commander who will then buff one of the Vanquishers, and then he has a battle cannon, so he can get Gatekeeper, and then his buff will go to the other Vanquisher. And then if I want to buff him, I could just do a single buff on him from the Leontis, which then you could argue to have one more Leman Russ that can benefit from the buff as well. But, you know, I'd rather have my list the way it is. And Lumen Rustlers are fucking massive. And Vanquishers, I don't want to dip too much into them, having 3 of them, because, again, they're really good. They're actually, in my opinion, better than Hammerheads. If they get buffed, instantly better than Hammerheads. Without debate. Your opponent may not have juicy targets, and they're just shooting at something and like killing 1 to 2 models. And then you just have a point lost. So, it's something to think about. But most of the time, you could get away with even bringing 3 of those fuckers. Just in case your opponent can have a hammerhead and blow 1 of yours up. So now, or 2, now you still have another. With that said, Grey Knights, Blood Angels, Black Legion, Dark Angels, DW, Thousand Suns, Demons Undivided, Imperial Knights, Adepta Sororitas, Salamanders, Custodes, Ultramarines, Emperor's Children, Tyranids, Leagues of Votann, Necrons, and Red Corsairs are competitive. Okay. I'm going to try to go faster now. What am I at for time? Already 30 minutes, good lord. Okay, so Grey Knights and Thousand Suns. Both of them are Psychic Marines, good and evil. One is plus to cast, the other is plus 1 deny. Grey Knights, they fixed some of the anti-demon stuff, kinda. Well, now they'll ignore like demon saves and stuff like that, but that's demon saves, no longer demon invuls. And so when it comes to like Morty and the Red Giant, they still have their invuls. They're just the wrong kind of demon. And possessed and some other shit like that. It's weird. So there's demons that still get around the Grey Knight shit. Thousand Suns got a bit more expensive. Kinda. Some of the stuff. I think their big like Rift monster thing is really cool. But it's not T8. So I don't like it. I have a problem with T7 for the most part. There's very few things that are T7 that I approve of. Custodian Dreadnoughts are cool. That's meh. Anyway. So the Grey Knights and Thousand Suns, they do mortal wounds. Mortal wounds are overlooked, and they're very good. And, if you're not used to playing against it, it'll fuck you up. Also, Grey Knights, until the Arcs of Omen, they had a thing where they were the only faction that actually had, I believe, one of the only factions that had Terminators as a troop choice. But now, since the Arcs of Omen, you don't need to bring the Terminators. You could just bring other things and get extra CP. So a lot of these armies are just built similar as before, but if it was very efficient, but now they just have more CP to spend, which is nice. The Grey Knights return to the Nemesis Dread Knight because before it was better to run non-Nemesis Dread Knight for Armor of Contempt, but since Armor of Contempt is gone, bringing them back, baby. Unfortunately, and ironically, with Armor of Contempt, Thousand Suns getting that extra AP reduction just made them even more tanky, like one of the tankiest Terminators in the game for their Scarabs. Because Armor Contempt is gone, it makes their shooting even better, because they have built-in AP2 for their fucking rapid fire. And so Scarabs just dump on things right now. In hot take, I run Cult of Magic, not Duplicity. I know, I get it, Duplicity is popular, yada yada yada, but you can just run 2... If you run 3 things of Scarabs, that's like a shitload of your points, and 2 of them can just be in Deep Strike. And then you can use the Relic Gem to just yeet one across the field. And then at that point, there's no reason to go Duplicity anymore. You could Duplicity some other stuff, but you want to ward off your opponent, hold objectives, and prevent Deep Striking, and give Lookout Sir. And so, it's just too risky, and you could play that more aggressive, but you leave yourself open. And on high level competitive play, which makes me like, I play mostly casual, I just know like some competitive stuff. Like, okay, competitive factions, one of the things here, hot take, is I'll just skip ahead. Dark Angels. I have Dark Angels here as Deathwing, not Ravenwing. Ravenwing is seen as far better, A tier even, instead of beer, is B tier, beer, because they're go fast. Being able to move around and control the battlefield at high level play is very valued, even unto itself. However, at the end of the day, depending on what your opponent does, and having speed can try to mitigate things, you also have the raw numbers, which you still have to battle the dice god, but having better numbers and abilities can compensate. Deathwing has better numbers, than Ravenwing for the most part when it comes to a lot of things. So I believe Deathwing is better. Now, Ravenwing I didn't put here because I'm trying to have the best list for every faction, and so it didn't make the cut because I think Deathwing personally is better. People can yell at me in the comments saying I'm stupid. I don't care. And Ravenwing is very good. It is A to B tier right now. It's A tier at high competitive play if you're very smart. If you're not at that high level, then it's C to B tier. Just run Deathwing. It's one of the simplest armies next to Custodes. It's very good. Yeah. So let's see. Since I was talking about them, Dark Angels, Deathwing. You have Terminators. You move up. They're like Nurgle. The Nurgle demons, same thing, but far fucking tougher and far better. And they even got point decreases for some of their stuff. Also, they have a very unique chapter champion. It has a unique weapon that is pretty funny. Because if you give him some upgrades, he can actually, by himself, kill a 10-man squad. Like, he has 10 attacks, or he can get 10 attacks, so he can actually kill 10 models, which is pretty, like, reliably. It's pretty funny. If it's a single unit. So yeah, dude is funny business. Black Legion, I don't know if they're this good, but like, well, okay. One, a lot of the CSM lists I put in B versus C or below. Like, Death Guard doesn't have the Terminator meme. And then C tier, or no, World Eaters doesn't have the Terminator meme. The Terminator meme is you run a Dark Apostle and a Master Possession. You give them, Soul Portent and Illusory Script and Pact of Flesh and another upgrade. Whatever. Diabolic Might or Invigoration. And then you give them Vernal Tome to give an upgrade for your Apostle and his disciples. And then you give a Libricus to Relic to your possession, so he gets and Marcus Slanesh, along with Slaneshinizing your Terminators, so you can give them the 5-up Feel No Pain, Delightful Agonies, and then you give them Black Rune Damnation, so they get -1 to be hit, and you can give them a trans on the hit roll, unless I'm mistaken, maybe trans on the wound roll, 5-up Feel No Pain, improved invul, -1 to wound, and +1 to hit, +1 to wound, all kinds of stupid buffs. And you still have a sorcerer there, so you can give Diabolic Strength and other stuff, all kinds of. And if you're not Black Legion, you can give them +1 to hit via Zinch. Prescience. And there's also Death Hex. If you really want something else, you can run a sorcerer instead of Rubric, and you can also cast Death Hex and just turn off somebody's invuls. Like, that shit is absurd. But the thing is most of those buffs for all the CSM you do on that Terminator brick. You can still do that in Black Legion. But what if I told you it could be better? You bring Abaddon, the Menace, and he just runs around deleting things because you can actually target him now because he is not Black Legion for all the other legions, but he's Black Legion for Black Legion. Crazy, I know. And so you could just give him an insane amount of buffs, just make the dude a fucking menace. To kill, he will beat anything. 1v1 with all those buffs, he will beat anyone easily. The only two things that could have a chance, maybe. I don't remember if the Nightbringer disallows rules to, for wound. Like, there's a couple relics in the game and abilities that says, oh, your opponent can't use rules to ignore wounds lost. You need that. If you don't have that, you can't beat Abaddon. The first thing that comes to my mind, two things, is Nightbringer. I don't remember if he has that, but also the Mass Extractor for the Leagues of Voton champion dude. Those are only two things. Everything else that have the chance to kill him. Everything else, dead. You need to be able to shoot him, deal 3, and 1v1 him, shoot him, deal 3, psychic deal 3, and melee deal 3. But don't forget about all those invuls, hard to damage him and shit. and feel no pains. And somehow, if you do all that, you still have, the Terminator brick now. That's just going to get all the buffs instead. So Black Legion is absurd because it can do two different options. And he can just control a quarter of the board as a single model. He's 350 points now. That's why I removed him from everyone else, because otherwise he was just an auto take because he was so good. But now I just run more Possess, because Possess, I think, outtrade him for his points value, except for Black Legion and like one or two other factions where he's still in. Blood Angels. Blood Angels, the point war gear has been removed for Inferno Pistols, I believe, for Sanguinary Guard. And so Sanguinis are even better. I don't know. If they got nerfed, if you nerf Sanguinis, Blood Angels fall. They still have the Black Rage people, but yeah, Sanguinis are where it's at. So, and they have jetpacks. They go where they please. They're infantry spam with jetpacks. And so they are very weird. If you have a lot of stuff that could do 2 wounds, you'll Shrek them. But if you don't, they'll get you first then. If you're smart, just hide. You hide and your opponent gets closer, and then you fuck them up with your shit ton of Inferno Pistols, excrement swords, exceramite, and Thunderhammer spam with your Black Legion, your Black Rage motherfuckers. Can't remember the name for some reason. Demons Undivided. So my Demons Undivided list is good. There was a bad one I made, but it's far funnier. The bad one I made has Be'lakor, Lord of Change, Bloodthirster, 3 Nurgle Soul Grinders, and then a Fate Skimmer and 6 Screamers. That's a Chad army list. It's a monster mash. You have the fewest models out of any army list I've ever made. It is absurd. However, it's very strong. There's a huge glaring issue, though, which is none of your army has OBSEC, first off. And secondly, overwhelming majority of your army is a single model. So as soon as anyone gets to any objective, you lose it. So you can't hold objectives for shit. You can't go across the board to build a wall. And they do have enough, a lot of armies in the top tier have enough firepower to bring your shit down. It is funny. You could build like that and it would actually be between C and D tier. So you could definitely win, but it's bad. And so I had to change it. It has Nurgle boys, Plague Bearers, so you have OBSEC, you have models to hold objectives, because otherwise you won't win. However, Be'lakor, one of the top 3 models. Flamers got nerfed, Abaddon got nerfed, both of those were in top 3. Another one, Be'lakor, no nerf really. Be'lakor is still insane. And if you still want to run Flamers, you can with that one. Flamers are still good. You just run it, and you don't even need to bring an Exalted Flamer, but it's good. It's not that bad still, honestly. Flamers, their heavy nerf from their auto hitting was needed because they were just stupid absurd, but they're still decent actually compared to other Tzeentch and other demon picks. And you get the Lord of Change, which is the big thing you want because he's really good. Be'lakor by himself, insane. And then the Bloodthirster with the Argorath and his other Dominal Onslaught makes him hard to bring down. Each of them can just fan out, and they are their own wall to hold things, which is great. Imperial Knights, unfortunately, are far better than Chaos Knights. I played my first game as Chaos Knights and got destroyed. It was a good learning experience. Imperial Knights, big robots, good guys, debatably. They have better combos. They have more uniqueness. They have overall better warlord traits and relics than Chaos do. And fun fact, they were originally not supposed to be meant for war, but then they got turned into that. They were actually originally used for farming, believe it or not. I'm going to skip down to, real quick, Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights should be in C tier, I think. Where are you fuckers? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, C tier. Chaos Knights, that they're the same thing but evil. I think a lot of their models, Abomination, easily top 3, top 5 of coolest models in the game. Is the army list good? No, not really. Um, they just stand out. A lot of their stuff is T7, so you can just get shreked by Melta. Unless the Dice Gods are very nice to you. I run a Tyrant because I believe it's honestly better just to run a lot of the smaller knights. And so with the Tyrant, you could do a CP sync to buff all of them for round 1 to round 2, maybe, to get a better invul. After that, you're Gucci. The small knights aren't bad. They're good. It's just the army gets better over time, kind of like Jukari, but it's just they don't have enough model count. With less troops being common because people aren't forced to bring troops, all the small knights are OBSEC now, which is nice. But some armies can still compensate for the OBSEC loss, and so it's going back to B tier, Adepta Sororitas. I believe, hot take, that the Argent Shroud is superior now than Bloody Rose. Bloody Rose, one, I think like half the sisters have an amazing color scheme. They're all cool or have interesting lore. But Bloody Rose, much to my chagrin, was better. Just it was objectively. But with some of the nerfs, point wise, they're still good. But similar to Dark Angel Deathwing versus Ravenwing, Greenwing doesn't count. Sorry. Of sisters, which again, there's other sub factions for sisters, but like let's be honest, it's mainly those two that are really good. I think Argent Shroud, if you play smart, is better. You could still easily win. They're pretty high on B tier, and where stuff is on these lists, I just threw them there based on where I think they need to be, but not necessarily in order. Sororitas, they have like second amount of Melta. They're up there against with Iron Hands and Salamanders. It's just absurd what they can do, and the fact that you have the Iron Hands thing where you can move and shoot without penalty, and then you can give them reroll hits of 1 with your Canoness, which is your Captain Aura, but it's not global. But so you might want to castle up, but they also come with a reroll hit or wound. So you also have your Palatine giving you 1s. So if you're gonna wound on 2 anyway, you can just use your reroll for 2s. So it works out pretty nice. They are pretty high up there because Melta is fucking Melta. It's strength 8, AP 4, D6, plus 2 if you're half range, and it's multi-Melta, so probably will be eventually round 2 to round 3. You're gonna. Sisters they're almost like a jacket of all trades too, where they can be melee if you want and do it well. They can also be anti-psyker very well, which is extremely annoying for some people, which I can understand. And then because they have percentage things, so instead of when it comes to high psychic cast factions like Tyranids and Thousand Sons, it is better to run sisters to deny them than other things because they get a bunch of bonuses to their cast. Neat. Sisters have a 6 up to a 5 up on a 6-sided die, so 20%, 33% chance to just say no, or make it even better with Pure of Will or Stratagem for your big important psychic casts. So another one would be the Slanesh Demons. So sisters are a menace to psychers. They have high firepower and damaging things. And the thing is you could bring less Melta if you want to go Bloody Rose and just bring more melee. The not Retributors, the I always forget them. Just the zealot women with eviscerators. And you still have Paragons. Either way, you have Paragons. Paragons are good because they have Melta. They're sturdy and they have good melee. So you just lean in either way. Really good army. But I believe Argent is superior. Adeptus Custodes. Custodes are weird. They got a bit better because everyone lost people are losing some OBSEC, and their Terminators got OBSEC back for their infantry, and then Armor Contempt is gone. They didn't have it in the first place. So they have gotten a bit better. They're weird. If your opponent gets a jump on you, that's bad. But the army is based on you trying to get the jump on your opponent via charging and deep striking and being pretty tough. I still feel like Emperor's Children is best, but I think I might have a bias there because I'm scared about losing the going against the psychic faction and not having that 4-up feel no pain, because that's their big weakness. You can run another stuff, but it's a bit more lopsided, where you're either going to get a bigger advantage or bigger disadvantage versus a very good above average balance with just Emperor's Children. Not Emperor's Children. Chosen. I like playing a shit ton of Custodes. I think they're very simple. They're a very fast army, which some of these armies have like almost like 100 models. Other ones have like 20 or less. So Custodes are very nice because of that. It makes the game much faster. There's a joke between me and some friends where it's like, oh, it's your movement phase? Alright, I'm gonna go make some cereal and take a shit. Like, go take a shower. Because sometimes there's like nothing for you to do, and your opponent just has to do stuff for like 10 minutes or more. And then sometimes it's 5 minutes or less. It's like 2 minutes for movement phase and shit. Ultramarines. Ultramarines got a buff. Big buff. Because now, you just play like Iron Hands, even though you're Ultramarines. Because Guilliman. Guilliman has, for core, which affects Devastators and, goddamn, Eradicators, if you want them, and, like, 4 out of the 6 or 7 Dreadnoughts are core, which is funny. He has Chapter Master AoE. So it's not just reroll hit rolls of 1. Reroll all hit rolls if for core. And so, oh no, I moved with a heavy thing. I'm -1 to hit. Except I reroll everything anyway. So it easily compensates, and you can just stay Devastator if you fucking want. Or not. You can just stay tactical for the entire thing. It is very good. So that doctrine change was very nice for Ultramarines, as long as you bring Big Gill. If you don't bring Robot Girly Man, Robo Booty, then they're C to D tier, honestly. Maybe D tier, yeah, D to the F. But with he's just a crux linchpin of the army, but he just makes it so good now. Emperor's Children. Them and a few other armies have this funny thing where for troops, if the troops get enough, I bring like 6 to 9 of those motherfuckers. Blastmasters are insane. And to the chagrin of Harlequins and what is it? Leagues of Votan and a few other things that affect your hit roll. Nah, fam. So Blastmasters are just so good. So I just want as many of those fuckers as possible. And I don't know. Like, the army is super simple. It's like 9 things in Noise Marines, a Lucius the Eternal, Master Possession, Dark Apostle, a Exalted Champion. So you get the wound rolls and hit rerolls of 1 going on. And then Terminator Squad, so they can just get buffed up. And that's it. That's it. It's a very simple army. It's spooky in range and in melee. It's very good. And because you have 9 things of 5 fucking Noise Marines, you have 45 fucking Noise Marines. They're all OBSEC too. It's disgusting. How dare you? Get him with the Greta. Yeah, Emperor's Children, they're overlooked, but anyone that overlooks them hasn't. It's like the Imperial Guard quote. Anyone that makes fun of las guns hasn't been like running through a field faced with like 200,000 of them or some shit. Tyranids got some point changes. The big one that hurt them was for Warriors, but honestly, they're easily still competitive tier. Oh, sorry. Warriors and Zoanthropes. My god. The Zoanthrope point nerf. Ew. I had 9 Zoans. Yeah, fuck that. I only have 3 now. Just so I can buff them with the Neurothrope once. And if my opponent doesn't focus them down, it's just going to be a menace still. Yeah. The Zoanthropes, that needed to get changed. The Tyranny Warriors was a bit mean for the point changes, but Zoans, that needed to happen. Maybe not that much, so it was pretty gnarly point nerf. It was huge. I don't think I agree with it. They need to tone that nerf down a bit and change some other things to compensate, because they need to be nerfed that bad, but like not with just those two different units. Um, it's like the nerf on Tau, which I'll get to. Leagues of Votann, they are in a perfect spot right now. I think. I think they're literally almost in a perfect spot. Now, Great Arthurian League still can do the Wombo combo that was like disgusting for them, but you can only do it once per round. And you need to line stuff up for a target, and then I have a land fortress, so if I lose the land fortress, the big Wombo combo is gone. The really big spooky one. So the Super Hammerhead shenanigans has been super toned down. They still got good melee. They still have good shooting. I think they need a lot more lore now. Tons more lore. I think GW needs to pump out a lot more books, add a lot more lore, and just hype the series up more and more and more. Leagues of Votann on tabletop though, I like where they are. They kind of feel like sisters, but instead of having a bit of Jackmore all trades, they have a bit more extra defenses. They're really weird. I like them though. They're perfect where they are. Necrons. Other people complained about this, so the Silent King change had to happen. That shit was stupid, with the Technomancer and nonsense, where you could just take a shit ton of damage, shrug it off, revive crap, all kinds of nonsense because he's core. That needed to get fixed, so I'm glad. That was hella stupid. The custom dynasty thing for OBSEC and then 6 inches, a lot of people complain, and I agree. I think a good thing to do is just make it so you can't take it with the Relentless Expansionist. Or, yeah, you take it, the OBSEC, but you have to take it with something else. Easy. Because otherwise, people just go Nihilek. And I think Nihilek is just the way to go right now. So I went Nihilek as well. It's just... And then you just go Eternal Guardians round 1. And be like, alright, come at me, bro. You turn off more AP. You're defensive. You're just a bit more slower, but you're more defensive for round 1. It's not that bad. I think if I had the choice, I would go back to running extra movement. So you have far more field control with Necrons, but it is what it is. I feel like the fact that you just can't take it with anything else, that people are just going to go Nihilek, and because why wouldn't you? So it's just stupid. You can still do other things with Necrons. The new Army of Renown that came, Army of Renown that came out, which was all Destroyer Cult. It's bad. Shit's cool, but it's bad. Comparably. And then you can still do other builds. You don't have to do that Dynasty for Necrons. And there's a lot of cool models and stuff to do. I think Silent King is a trap. The only time he wasn't was when he had that huge nonsense buff. But now he's a trap. I think bringing 2 Cthulhu's is a trap. Maybe. Unless you bring Nightbringer and Void Dragon. But even then... If you do that, then you wouldn't do the OBSEC Force. They are very niche. You can out-trade your opponent depending on what your opponent brings. If your opponent brings Psychic, then you instantly lose the trade. If they don't have Psychic, then you should win the trade. If they don't have vehicles, then you just need the Nightbringer. So it's a point waste for the most part, effectively, for meta options. There's a lot of ways to play Necrons. They're my favorite faction, even though... I think they could do better. They got some nerfs to their secondaries, which need to happen. Thing with Warhammer, where it should be more killy based, but it definitely needs to always have tactical stuff with secondaries, I feel like. Because otherwise, you can just bring like a beef faction, and you should always win. I don't know. It's less tactical, so this actually makes people think, and it's more war-like versus battle-like. And yeah. So, Necrons revive a lot. Some people get really mad when I've played Necrons. They're like, I'm tired of them reviving. This is stupid. And you know what? There's been some times where my opponents barely shrug my entire warrior thing. And I've had very few games where I get down to literally 1 or 2 models and be like, okay, so they're getting a 4-up revive. And I can reroll 1 dice per thing. And because they're warriors, they can reroll 1s. And I bring back 15. And then so now I've gone from 20 to 2 to 17. And then, I have a Technomancer here. Let me roll D3. Oh, cool. I'll get another 3 back. All right, they're all back. And it's like, fuck you. Like, what do you do against that? You have to dedicate so much to wipe them out. They're so annoying to fight against if you don't have what's needed to bring them out. Yeah, I love them. I'll just keep ranting all day. Anyway, it's Chaos Space Marines, Red Corsairs, last one competitive. So, these dudes, actually, real quick, did I? Okay, yeah. Red Corsairs, they're like, out of all the Chaos Space Marine options, that kind of just like vanilla with different flavors, the only reason they're above Creation's Bile is Creation's Bile got nerfed. So their Wolf and Chaos, their Space Wolves Fight on Death was now changed to a 4-up. And their Red Corsairs have Advance and Charge. So I took out Abaddon, which means more Possessed, which definitely flourish with that Advance and Charge. So they just go to town. They go fast, which is the name of the game, and they have a lot more field control. And that's basically it. The thing is, with a lot of the Chaos Space Marines, they have an issue right now, which is that prior mentioned Terminator super buff nonsense that you can do, that because it's so good, you should just run that in every single one. And ironically, some of the Chaos Space Marine chapter, their version of chapter tactic, isn't that great. So you could just build the same way almost in every list, and it's still pretty fucking effective. So if you grab like half of any of my CSM lists, like almost 3/4 of them are about the exact same build. And you can just paint them differently if you was doing it IRL, or just say, oh, they're this or they're this. Army, if you want to try out different things, because they won't effectively change. A small thing is, I don't remember if I even have, unfortunately, any Raptors in my Night Lords. Because if I remove the Raptors, the compensated changes aren't as good for the -1 leadership as other things. Now, they could still be good in certain matchups, for sure. Or other matchups not. So there's a beauty and a bane in the cookie cutter style of a lot of CSM lists right now, that they are generally very effective and competitive in different ways, but they lose a lot of uniqueness, which is a problem in some Warhammer 40k factions, a lot of them. But it's just far more accentuated for CSM, because they just, the meta way to build half your army or more is just the same shit. So you actually, if you want uniqueness, you gotta build bad. So that is the B tier competitive. Also, Red Corsairs, they're all about fleets and ships and raiding. Let's see. So I didn't talk a lot about some of the stuff. So Salamanders. Oh wait, did I skip them? Yeah, I didn't talk about Salamanders. Holy shit. So Salamanders, and then I'll go over some of this stuff. Salamanders, Flame and Melta, and guess what? You can stay in Devastator. So if you need to focus Melta to fuck up your opponent, cool. You stay in Devastator. If you need the extra AP, if you need the extra +1 to wound, which is better, and your opponent's coming at you and going to be in Flamer range, then you just go into Tactical and stay Tactical for the rest of the game. Salamanders are loving this buff as well, and yeah, it's so good. And, on a quick note, for Space Marines in general, Infiltrators. With the change, not just to Space Marine doctrines, but for all armies, they can now put things into reserve for free, which makes it so more armies will focus reinforcements and deep strikes and stuff, and they don't have to pay the troop tax, so they can do other things like this, like deep striking. Well, now, you put shit away from you by 12. Demons? No. And guess what? If you still don't like Flamers, their range is 12. So they have to run up to you, aka fly. Your opponent bringing stuff in and shooting you at 12 or charging. Blood Angel charges, +1 to charge. So that 9-inch is now an 8? Nuh-uh, fam. Come in at 12, which means you can't declare a charge. So a lot of these fucking things. And then Infiltrators, because of the Space Marine changes, you get sticky now on your troop. And they're OPSEC. Infiltrators have such high value right now that over half of my Space Marine armies have at least 1 to 2 Infiltrators. Some don't have any, and some have even 3. They're just that good. They protect you from charging, protect you from deep striking, sticky OPSEC, and the Helix Gauntlet is fucking free, and they got a point decrease. Look into infiltrators if you play Space Marines. They are so good. And so salamanders, I don't know, really good with flaming and melta. They're more of a mix between Iron Hands and Sisters. Sisters, I just don't think the flames are that good anymore. You could do the combo easier now for 3 CP less by not having to pay the tax for strategic reserves for penitent engines or mortifiers to do max flamers with a stratagem. You can just do 2 CP for that now, which is nice. So it's a big reduction. But compared to other options for Sisters, meh. And Salamanders, I have a bunch of aggressors. I think it is good to lean into the flamers. So I think it is more often than not you're just going to go to tactical after Devastator. That's fine. You just stay in tactical now. And so they don't lose value over the course of the game. They just stay strong. And in case your opponent does bring shit that's T9, guess what? You don't wound on 5-ups, you wound on 4s with your Melta. So that's very much needed. Yeah. So Custodes, if you want to save money, play quick, play them. Salamanders, if you want to hit hard, but you also want a flamer and you don't want to be as oppressive as Iron Hands to be like a meta chaser. Because, Iron Hands are definitely going to get nerfed. And Astral Minotaur are going to get a nerf, but to what degree, we don't know. But Iron Hands definitely need a nerf. When that nerf will come, who fucking knows, though. Right now, Devastator's got a big... If you bring only 5 Devastators, and 4 of them are the heavies, and you don't bring others for, like, squishy bullet absorption as meat shields, Devastators are just good. Really good right now. It's a CSM issue, so you just bring them in for all your regular Space Marines. Just bring a bunch of Devastators. So if you want a mix of mid-range and long-range, heavy hitting, you do Sally's. Ultramarines, same thing, but the crux of your thing is Gilliman. If somehow your opponent can snipe Gilliman, you're fucked. If they don't, then you're going to out-trade a lot of these other factions. Because unless the Dice Gods hate you. Because while your ability to hit is lessened in general, you have a bunch of rerolls, and it's insane. And technically, if they make it easier to run assassins, then it'll be scary, because there's a few factions. Custodes, Blood Angels, Black Templars, and Ultramarines, where you can almost build a Hero Hammer faction. And if they make it easy to run assassins, then you actually get reroll 1s to hit for Imperium. So you could actually run Ultramarines and then just fill it with fucking assassins, which would be hilarious. I'm not sure how good that'd be, but damn, it'd be funny. Emperor's Children, if you just want to blast people away and then you let them come to you as if you were Nurgle, but if you somehow survive their damage output back, you will hit them pretty fucking hard with your amount of attacks and melee nonsense you have. But you force... The Blastmasters are weird because it's like Sisters with multi-meltas, but you actually have OBSEC as well. So they really force your opponent to come at you as you walk up the board. And if you want to build... And the thing is their alternate version of shooting is Assault. And so you can actually... And they ignore the penalty of ballistics profile and shit. So you can actually just advance up the board and while shooting if you really want to. If your opponent's going to castle, be like, alright, I'll play that game. Tyranids, you single buff the warriors with your Prime and your Warrior Prime and your fucking big dude. I forget his name, I'm sorry. Oh, wow. Oh, anyway, Neurothrope and the other shit for the Zoanthropes. And the Exocrines are insanely good as an artillery. Easily top tier artillery for their cost. I think they might be number 1. Top 3, if not number 1 in the game for their cost. And then leagues, and then for all their sub factions, if I have change ups like that, are Jormungand for Tyranids, but I have an adaptive trait to prove the Exocrine specifically, just because I want them to stay strong. I want them to be at top bracket as long as possible. Leagues of Votann, I run a lot of the little dudes with Greater Thurian League because they get double OBSEC. Not everything in your army gets OBSEC, but since I have so many of them, that's like 75% or 80% of my fighting force, and they have double OBSEC, so you can easily compete with people for model count, and they're pretty fucking sturdy. It's pretty funny. Necrons, if you want to dab zombie robot style on your opponent with attitude. And even though I'm Nihilek, unfortunately I'm not running the Chad, Trazing the Infinite. So many people in Necrons are Chads. Like Nemesaur, Chad. The Thunderlord, Chad. Trazin, Chad. I love them all. But, yeah, I'm not running him. If he had Hand of the Pharaoh, I'd consider it at least, but he doesn't for some reason. And then Red Corsairs, if you want to be Chaos Space Marines but run up the field, they're what you World Eaters wish they could be. World Eater Berserkers with Armor of Contempt, if they kept their advance in charge for some reason, they easily beat Red Corsairs. But now Red Corsairs, until the World Eaters buff comes up, they're just what World Eaters wish they could be, with the Possessed just being so good. Possessed are T5, they have a lot of attacks. The Khorne Berserkers in general are good for their point cost. They're cheaper, but they're not as nearly as sturdy, and they don't have advance in charge. That's just the big two differences. Alright, finally on the last tier, C tier. So, average. Not as good as competitive, but you know, again, for all these armies you could easily win. You could still win with Raven Guard, Nurgle Demons, but I think some differences are, of course, pointing the eligibility of being able to buy the models from GW, so it's official, and then everything else, I'm brain farting, sorry, I'm getting tired, is your opponent playing bad or depending on your opponent list. Your list will seesaw versus just being above average in most categories in general. There is the tournament list stuff, but I think it's one of those things where like you could bring an anti-meta list, since there was a one time where a couple tournaments that so many people bring Harlequins, you could just bring Imperial Fist and actually do well. Are people doing that though? No. And the tournament data, it's like, oh, they're actually doing better than people thought for Harlequins. Like, they had like a 73, 78% win rate, but that's because other Harlequin players were fighting other Harlequin players. So some would lose, which would bring it down. So people that just stick to the quote-unquote meta data of tournaments, instead of like looking at the straight options that can be brought, that's just differentiating off of player skill and what people can afford and do bring. Like, Defilers and a few other things are just sold out for GW. So if you don't 3D print an illegal model, then you just can't run it in your list. Even if you have the money or it works well in your list, if you can't get the model, then you can't do it IRL. If you play Tabletop Simulator or any kind of other variable way to play the game for Warhammer 40k, etc., then you don't have that problem. And so it's at that point just player skill. What you can do and how you build versus how it matches up to your opponent and your players and your opponent's skill. So with all that said, White Scars. White Scars have advance in charge. I've been back and forth on that one because the thing is their other bonuses for when they're in the assault doctrine are pretty good. See, this is one where if you actually want to play more Kayun instead of Matka, those are fish Tau terms, then you can actually build more passive and take off the chapter tactic, build Successor, and build like Whirlwind Rage and some other bonuses to be a more passive force to let your opponent come to you. And then you'll actually get more melee output instead of taking that advance in charge. Their advance in charge is meant to go jetpacks and bikes. I kept it, and I think that one I'm a little iffy on. It might be better to remove it. Iron Hands, I removed their chapter tactic because I don't really need it for the most part. I think it's better not to do it, depending on how your army list is. For mine, I don't do it. It's better to have Stealthy and Master Artisans. So for White Scars, debatably, it's better to not run their chapter tactic. But Advance in Charge is really fucking nice. So it's pretty fucking good. On this note, let me talk about Ravenwing real quick, because I need to get this off my chest. Okay, sit up. Ravenwing, this is such a tangent. You go fast. Devastator Doctrine. All these fucking neckbeards are cooming. All these high-level players are cooming at this. I think a good portion of them are wrong. Now, it's still a good army. It's a competitive army. But is it better than Dark Angels? No. And then Deathwing? No. And I think what even more so, for average, barely, are they S/A tier? No. Because the thing is the whole Devastator Doctrine shit where it's just staying now, because you could just run Ravenwing before now. So what's the big change? Doctrine, there's some cheaper things done, but it doesn't affect a lot of Ravenwing. What you can do is run stuff that's not very good for Ravenwing that got the point changes, but they're not going to be OBSEC or / very good. So you can have more quantity, but you're not going to have the quality, which you're going to lose up in matchups. And then, well, you have the +3 movement. Okay, but that's you're already moving at like 14. So now you're moving at 17, which will help you more so. Movement's always good, but is that enough versus running just Deathwing and their bonuses? And because they'll all have Inner Circle. Now, you could say, oh, well, I'll run Black Knights. They move 3 and they'll have Inner Circle. True. But what also do they have? They have assault weapons. So you can move and shoot with them, which is cool. But you're going to go so fucking far, you're probably more than likely not going to have your rerolls to hit a wound, depending on what you bring. Unless you bring Talon Master and some other shit. But then your shit's going to be across the board, which then is still not terrible. But it's like, oh yeah, don't forget, I can shoot my heavies and rapid fire as if it's assault. Most of these units, if you bring like the ATV, the Outrider and stuff, if you bring stuff that's Melta, then is your stuff across the field or is it in the back line? Tell me. And then furthermore, you're still going to get the penalty now. So your Space Marine Melta is shooting on a 4-up. And if you position well, then you might have the option, maybe, for reroll 1s. This is not the same as Iron Hands. Everyone has reroll 1s across the board for hits. And then they shoot on a 3-up. And now, with Master Artisans, they can reroll a dice as well. This is not the fucking same thing. And if you're not running Black Knights, then Melta is going to Shrek your shit. It's going to pound your shit in. And even if you're running Black Knights, they're still going to lose to Iron Hands. And then some of their stuff is just not like worth writing home about. It's good, but they don't have advance and charge. So, I can go 17, and then I can move an extra 6 with Turbo Boost for 23. Oh my god. It's like, okay, but your shooting has now become ass, and now your opponent is probably to get into melee with you, which you want to get into melee with them. So, if you're not making use of the advance thing, then you don't even give a shit about Turbo Boost for the most part. It gives you options, and options are always very good, but for the love of God, they're not fucking S tier. I spent like so many hours staring at these fucking things. Now, again, certain matchups, every army can do good. My Imperial Fist versus Harlequins is an example of that. But against the average thing and at a high level of play, certain things will beat it. And then here's a good example, which turns Raven Guard into shit. Fucking buildings. When you're on a 3rd story or higher, they've suddenly become ass. And then also, depending on the terrain, they might have to go fucking around because there's a lot of bikes and shit. There's a lot of problems that people don't seem to want to recognize, or that it's like the Necron core thing, where they just GW kept giving core to Necrons to more and more things, but it was to things that you don't really give a shit about for core. And so the buffs for Ravenwing are things that don't really fucking matter. And people are like, oh my god! Fuck. Attack bikes, but then you don't get OBSEC. Scout bikes, but they're not that good. Have OBSEC. I could just go on and on. But yeah, there's a reason why Ravenwing's not on here before anyone discounts this. If you've gone like 45 hour long into this video or whatever now, it's a fucking reason why Ravenwing's not on here. They're fucking great. They're not good. They're great. But I think Deathwing is better. Maybe that's bias of me. But regardless, I will hold my ground and die on the hill that they're not S tier. So back to White Scars. You can keep their chapter tactic or not. Both are good. I think, hot take, it is maybe better to run them more passively. Because they want to do assault phase, that means you need to wait till round 3 before they really pop off. So you just want to have your opponent come into you. Now, your opponent could be deep striking a lot or go fast. You don't know. So having initiative could be nice. So if you have bikes, you at least get turbo boost. so you'll be moving pretty fucking far. I think barely right now. It might be better just to go regular. I'm just so close to 50-50 on that. That's something to think about. Harlequins, Space Elf Clowns. They got more nerfs. They're in a weird spot right now. Ironically, I think light is still the way to go because Skyweavers are fun. If they nerf Skyweavers, then it'd instantly be either Twilight or Dark. Fuck the advance in shooting. It's just so bad at this point. I still think about the dude who rage quit I was playing. I unfortunately didn't record that instance when I brought up that he couldn't advance and shoot with his dudes in open top anymore. And he was arguing with me about it. Yeah. And then immediately he went and asked for a competitive game. Anywho. Fucking sweaty. Harlequins, they're still good, but it's just better in my opinion to run just the regular guys now. Just a bunch of blobs of the regular dudes. Even with their worst invul, you at least can hide them. You can debatably even just bring their expensive ass vehicle, the Void Weavers, because I don't know, they're just in a bad spot right now where they just keep getting fucked by GW. It's because they're very good. I think the points have been hit a bit too hard, and it's at this point it's just because people are still playing them versus not playing enough of the other armies or their skill differences. I think they're actually a bit lower on this list. Maybe that's a hot take for me. Adeptus Mechanicus. Scutari are very good. But ironically, because of that, you don't really need to bring the Army of Renown now. Because now all your Scutari Bionics are just a 5-up. However, the Einstrider specifically is super nutty. Because so many people are bringing tanks and stuff that's T8 and T9. So the Cogni Las Cannons, which are also Scutari and Core, which you can give reroll hits and wounds of 1 and improve their ballistics, and they just have so many good things going for them that they could just destroy. They don't have Melta, but they don't have 40 to 50, 60 Melta, but they do have a nice casual 45 las cannons, I believe. Hold on. 30, 10... No, 30 las cannons, my bad. 30 las cannons. It's pretty fucking good. It's enough to decently consider because they can move far. It's a vehicle, doesn't have the penalties, and they got all the buffs, so you're probably going to Shrek shit. However, they don't have the Devastator Doctrine, so it's going to be AP3, not AP4, AP5. And by being close range with Melta, you get a damage boost. Las cannons do not. So you want your opponent to be far away from you. You don't really want to move into them. You want to, for 2 to 3 to 4 rounds of the game, just be backing, holding out, and shooting them before you move up. Which is kind of weird. But you have decent firepower. You have other things you can do with Adeptus Mechanicus, but I don't think there was enough point changes to really bring them back up. I think they're barely C level now, but they're probably closer to D. I still think they need more updates and buffs. Night Lords, they stole the goddamn for over a year now. They stole the fucking poor bastards, the champion with jetpack. So the Lord Jetpack. So you can't really do some funny business with them anymore. There's a funny story with the YouTuber Bricky with one of his Night Lords guys that you can't do that shit anymore. Night Lords, unfortunately, while you could bring Raptors to maximize their leadership debuff against some armies, it really don't matter. Tyranids, Dark Angel Deathwing, and a few other armies don't give a fuck really. And then what is it? Custodes and Necrons, depending on what you kill, may not matter. So it's just the whole leadership mechanic for a good amount of armies just doesn't fucking matter. Or you fully wipe something, then it doesn't matter. Or you just dump into one thing, but it barely survives. Insane bravery. Just it is not enough right now. And you could bring them, as I said, the Raptors, and that's not bad. But there's more value, in my opinion, bringing a rubric with Death Hex that can turn off invuls for something that somebody may not expect, and you can just delete a character. And then, if not that, then I don't know. It's just not enough right now. You still already have the -2 leadership anyway. You could just maximize it if you want. Boy, it's so niche. And because again, you should be expecting for all these armies to take losses. It's like, oh well, everything. It's the whole like craft world thing. Where it's like, oh well, all these bonuses, blah blah blah. But you should expect to take losses. You're gonna hurt your opponent. Your opponent's gonna hurt you. Hell, maybe they will hurt you more than you'll hurt them. How can you come back from that? If you need to combo, then it may not work out well. And because the cookie cutter stuff for CSM, let me just jump around. They have a lot of cookie cutter stuff. They're about the same as Alpha Legion. Alpha Legion is about the same as Creation's Bile. They're about the same as Bears. Yeah, those are all basically built exactly the same. So it's just whatever different chapter tactic that they have that you might like, lore-wise, or bonuses. That's just unfortunately how it is. Iron Warriors are also kind of built the same. They lean a bit more into the shooting with Havocs. Obliterators are not good. Obliterators are fucking bad. They're a fucking trap, and it makes me sad because they're so fucking cool. I fucking love Obliterators, but damn it, they're fucking bad. Ugh, it angers me. And now I've jumped around a lot. Orcs. So, I thought for a couple factions here of having multiple things, like Bloody Rose for Sisters, Orcs having Squigs, and or Speed Freaks. Speed Freaks, kind of like Ravenwing for Dark Angels, are so different. Ravenwing is just really good. But Speed Freaks is possibly the worst army of the game. Yes, worse than Imperial Fists. But, they're so different, but damn, they're so bad. And I just can't bear myself to add, like, more to the list. I was thinking about making this a top 50, but it would take even longer. I'd have to show off more armies, I'd have to update stuff, and they're just bad. They're fucking cool. But furthermore, here's the thing with Chaos Demons Undivided and Speed Freaks for Orcs. If you run Chaos Demons Undivided, but specifically as the Be'lakor Army of Renown, they're worse than just running them as regular Chaos Demons Undivided. Which is stupid in my mind. I hate that. That's so dumb. Speed Freaks Orcs are actually worse than if you just build that list and not make it Army of Renown. The Army of Renown makes it worse. So stupid. But Orcs, with the point decrease that happened a while back with the regular boys, and with Arcs of Omen, you could just run the 6 heavies now, 3 kill rigs, 3 battle wagons, load up on 60 boys, 30 of the wild boys, whatever the fuck, that go in the kill rigs. And kill rigs, anyone that says hunter rigs are better, they're insidious, they're a liar, don't trust them, jam their wheelchair and run the other direction. Kill rigs are just superior in every way. The only way they're not is because they're characters, so they can be points for Abhor the Witch and Assassination. Those are only bad things. So if you want to give your opponent less chance for points, then there's that. There's also, vehicles to bring it down. But they're so tough. Because they're characters, they benefit from Maw. They can advance and fucking charge. These giant fucking models are characters. Like, what is that? It's possibly one of the top 5 biggest quote-unquote character models in the game. Shit's huge. And they're hilarious. I think Orcs are very fun. Unfortunately, when I've played them, I did really well. I didn't stream that game or record it. And then when I played with my friend Doge using them, that was when Flamers still were strong, and I was trying them out. And I think I've only played a total of 2 games, 2 to 3 max, with the Tzeentch Flamers when they were strong. And yeah, I obliterated his army. They were too strong. It was sad because I wanted to see the Orcs pop off. But Orcs have bodies. It's one of the few Horde armies in the game that's actually still good, if you build it like I did. Actually, no, that's a lie, because demons. A lot of the demons now are actually troop focused. So, Khorne demons, and where's another one here? Oh, I didn't say it, but Nurgle demons and even Slaanesh and Tzeentch, they just have so many fucking troops now. Khorne demons, the Bloodletters are just so efficient that while the Bloodthirsters are cool, you only need the one that's like souped up with Aggaroth Blades and Indomitable Onslaught and Brazen Hide. And then you just have other people to just buff the Bloodletters. The Bloodletters are very good in trading for melee. And so you just run up the field. That's it. They're a bunch of melee blood demons. And then let me jump around. Wait, what? Where's Zinch demons? Oh, there they are. Zinch demons. Zinch demons. Yeah, flamers got nerfed, but now it's fine. They're still good, but you could just do more horror spam and stuff. Horrors are weird because if the dice are kind, oh my god, your obsec potential, because you just keep one iridescent slash pink horror alive and just keep splitting them into blues and brimstone, and you will just control an objective more than your opponent, because as long as you have one obsec, then even if they have 50 obsec, it goes based on model count then, and you just have a bunch of regular guys, so you just will control an objective. So they are pretty weird because they'll just march up the field and just clog up like your opponent just with this giant wall. They're more Necron-y than Necrons right now. If you do horror spam with Zinch demons, they're actually more Necron-y than Necrons, which I think is hilarious for just the revival shit. Unless the dice gods hate you and you roll a bunch of 1s, 2s, 3s. Space Wolves. Also, really quick note. I didn't mention it for Thousand Suns, but I believe with the changes made, it is no longer meta to run a patrol with Zinch demons, so you can get a souped up Lord of Change and then double cast. It is still good, but I do not think that is the way anymore. I think it is better not to do that. You could still do it. It's still good. I just think it's better to just go pure Thousand Suns. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because I didn't know how that was going to go. If for the demons, if I need to take an Arc of Omen and whatnot, no. You just take whatever detachment of... Because you don't even need to take Arc of Omen if you don't want to. So you could just take a patrol of Thousand Suns. And then... which, I mean, there's not really much sense in doing that. You can just bring a fucking Arc of Omen. But if you don't want to take 3s of anything... So you just take one Rubric Marines and then some characters and shit. And then you bring some demons that are 500 points. So just a Horror Patrol and Lord of Change. So that way you can just double cast the fuck out of his Infernal Gateway. Just cast it once and then cast it again with Mutant Mutilator and Possible Robe and shit. All this nonsense on him. However, I barely think that's not good enough anymore. And I did want to touch on that because Zinch demons are related to Thousand Suns in that way. Space Marines, Space Wolves. Space Wolves, I really like the Wolfen, and I think I use Cyber Wolves just as distraction Carnifex, just as a meat grinder, just to tactical check my opponent, being able to advance and charge with them. I think is very nice. And the Wolfen, the fact that they have a straight up fight on death, and because it's all their attacks, not just one, it's very good if you run with, instead of Thunderhammers, you run what is it? Frost Claws, which is their version of Lightning Claws. You get one less attack with the Frost Claws, because if you do double Lightning Claws, you get +2. You just get +1, but they're AP2. So, and they might be +1 strength as well. I don't recall, but yeah. So it's really good. I think Wolfen are overlooked, and the big thing / problem with Space Wolves is because all those army factions, except for Blood Angels, because they're very good at getting melee, and they had better melee with the Sanguinary Guard and stuff, is that you need to be in round 3 to really start having them pop off. So you just aren't doing as much until then, and because the game snowballs, if there's heavy terrain, lots of obscuring, you're doing great. If there's not, problems. I brought some Long Fangs, which is their version of Devastators, because the Devastators are so good right now for their point cost. Very, very good. Bring them. I don't remember if I have any infiltrators, but yeah, that's basically it. I just think it was funny. One of the things, because I'm mentioning wolves, is for Armor Contempt, when it was a thing, there's a couple units in the game that were just really weird because they got Armor of Contempt. Custodes didn't, and Admech didn't, which is weird. The Servitors got Armor of Contempt. Their wolves, Cyber Wolves and shit, they got Armor of Contempt. Demon Princes
that are from Chaos Space Marines got Armor of Contempt, but Demon Princes not from Chaos Space Marines did not get Armor of Contempt. Yeah, Armor of Contempt was funny in that way, and there's more, but I just think it was really funny. Another fun one is the fact that you could bring Chaos Spawn for Chaos Space Marines. You just bring them, but for demons, nah, fam. You need to try and summon them. Oh, shit made no sense. Anyway, I'm just poking fun at stuff. Deathwatch. Deathwatch is a Chad army. I think Deathwatch, when Armor of Contempt was out, was actually B tier. They didn't get a lot of point decreases, and Armor of Contempt was even better. But nobody brings them because you need BDE, Big Dick Energy, to play it, and it's one of the things where, depending on how you build your list, it's a humongous headache. I do remember, I think it was Tabletop Tactics or a different one. I think it was Wargaming Tactics or some shit. Did explain how one of the most annoying things in the game, or worst units in the game, because several of the units just have a shit ton of rules, and they have problems. You can do some funny gimmicky shit with them, but they just have a lot of problems, and it's a bit of a fucking pain to deal with. And they have some funny gimmicky stuff again, but it's not that great. And if you play them well, though, however, then your opponent will suffer. And because they're not really played ever, people don't expect them. The thing with Imperial Fist, oh, my bolters have exploding sixes. Oh, okay. Done. Easily explanation. Deathwatch, oh, what's your chapter tactic? Every chapter tactic. Any and none. What do you mean? Oh, I can every round just choose whatever I want. And furthermore, you could do Xenobane, and you can get bonuses for your Aquila, Casorius, or whatever the fuck, different detachment types. And because they're troops, they get Sticky OPSEC now. If you go Kill Team AOR, which you should. I'm talking about the Kill Team AOR. If you don't do that, you're wrong. It is very good. You have a mixed attachment. They have a lot of fun things they can do, and you have a lot of... If people are cooming over fucking Ravenwing, I don't know why they're not losing their mind over Deathwatch this entire time. Deathwatch have always been cool. You just have to think. It slows the game down. You have to put a lot more thought into tactics, but they're fucking good. And now they can even benefit even more off of doctrines. And they have, I don't know, they're good at shooting and in melee. Not in psychic, but that's fine. They're just that much better in general. Let's see. I already did Alpha Legion, Word Bearers, and Creations of Bile. Black Templars. Black Templars, I misread something, which was unfortunate. Which is, I misread the wording for some of the bonuses you can give some of your guys for Sigil of Sigismund or stuff like that, or whatever the fuck, little 10 point bonus upgrades. I thought they made them way better than they did. I was wrong. Because I can't read. Black Templars are good, but there's a problem with in general, the Space Marine, Tactical Marines, a lot of the troop stuff just take Infiltrator. If not, don't even take most of the rest of the other shit. It's just bad. Sword Brothers and Crusaders, they just don't their numbers on the tabletop aren't reflected. It's like Custodes. Custodes in lore beat everything here almost. On tabletop, fuck no. And so, Black Templars, they need a lot more uniqueness along with some other stuff, because I don't have the urgency or incentive to really bring a lot of their unique stuff. There's no reason for me to do it. I build them like a mix between Space Wolves and White Scars. They can hit hard in melee, though. They're very melee focused, but they're just not nearly as fast. They're a bit slower. But they're pretty fucking tanky. Actually, they're between Dark Angels and Space Wolves, yeah. So, Ynnari. Ynnari is one in here because I consider it to be its own faction. Technically, in Battlescribe Codex-wise, it's Eldar/Craft World. But, while you could bring Traveling Troop, a patrol of Harlequins in Craft World at Drukhari, because of all the changes, you just wouldn't really do that anymore. And point cost, etc. It's not meta. Ynnari, you don't have to worry about that. You just bring them, and they just become Ynnari with Ynnari bonuses. And so it's one of the few things that you could run all three: Craft World, Drukhari, and Harlequin. And so I consider them their own separate faction. And lore-wise, they totally are. And so I think they're here. They are very go fast. So I mentioned it Harlequins, but Harlequins have advance and charge, and if you go light, advance, shoot, and charge with no penalties and shit. Ynnari doesn't have advance and charge, but I have Skyweavers still, and I have Shining Spears. A lot of, hey, I move like 14 to 16 inches or some shit, and I will now charge you with my flying bikes that are very spooky in melee, and have a bunch of bonuses. They're just a go fast faction, and ironically, they're also a really bad skill diff. If your opponent gets micro shooting, it like if you can somehow get your opponent to delete one model out of all of your units, that's amazing because they get stronger. The problem is if they focus fire delete something, like 90% or 100% dead. You want just a little bit of damage, just a little bit, and then you get even stronger, which is hilarious. Drukhari actually round 2 onwards will get advance and charge, and so you just pre-position for round 1 and make use of OBSEC and just touch the objectives, and then boom, you advance and charge all your shit that's like flying into your opponent and fuck their day up. They don't have advanced shooting though, but I think it's better to go fast. Go fast. Again, if Ravenwing, I'm not done bitching about Ravenwing. If they had advance and charge, that'd be a totally different story. But then that would just make White Scars even more useless. Having advance and charge is huge, but they don't have enough to put them in the competitive tier, in my opinion, because of other point changes. If they have a little bit more, then they would probably get there. A big change is because of the flyer rule. I don't have Void Raven Bombers or the other one, Interceptor. Bombers were insane, and especially because I love Necrons, I love telling the story, but people didn't realize that GW has gone through and found stratagems or like psychic abilities to do like a lot of mortals and cap it at usually like 3 to 6, where you can't just do a single like 1 CP stratagem and do like 20 mortal wounds. Unless you're Dark Eldar. If you're Drukhari and you're Witch Cult, you get Eviscerating Flyby. For 1/2 CP, which for the flyer it's 1. Because it's a flyer, it goes across the field. And it's a bomber, well, it could drop a bomb, but we'll get to that. You go across the field, and then you do Eviscerating Flyby on, say, Necrons. A Necron Warrior Blob, which is 20 models, to make the best use of the Warriors. You now roll 20 dice. 20 4-ups. 4-ups is a mortal, because it's a troop. It's 5-up, but if it's a troop, or I guess a non-character maybe, it's +1. So every single one is a mortal. And because it's not an attack, they don't get to revive because of it. And if you, God forbid, are doing against like Horde Tyranids, you roll 30 dice. And it's 1 CP for potentially 20 to 30 mortal wounds. What the fuck? And even if you're bottom bracket, you can just do it again. Just fly over something. And then you drop the bomb on them too. And then you deal more mortals with that. And that's all movement phase. You haven't even shot yet. What is that? Shit is absurd. But because you can't do that with the flyers anymore, they've gone down. You could still do Eviscerating Flyby with the stuff I bring in my list, in my version, but it's if your opponent doesn't have Horde stuff, then it doesn't really matter. And you can't do it you can't like pull that shit off round 1 anymore. Which was very obnoxious, which is good that you can't. That's Drukhari. Last 3. Whew. Our last 2? 2 to 3? No, I already talked about Iron Warrior a bit. So, Chaos Knights, I already talked about. So, they're like Imperial Knights. The Imperial Knights just have far more. This is more Small Knight focused. They get better as the game goes on with their terror stuff. But again, like Night Lords, it focuses on leadership and shit. And a lot of stuff has good leadership, so it doesn't really fucking matter. Or your shit's gonna get blown up anyway, because other stuff outranges you and outdamages you. If their knights, the small knights start at T8 and the big knights start at T9, That'd be a huge difference. But furthermore, if Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights have that, then Imperial Knights would still be better. They'd just both be in competitive tier. Imperial Knights might just be S tier with that. But yeah, Chaos Knights need a bit more bread and butter to bring to the table to be better than, or not even better, sorry, as good as Imperial Knights. Right now, Imperial Knights, just with all their stuff they have, are just a bit better, unfortunately. I think the easiest way to do this would actually just be a point drop, but it's very challenging to do when it comes to Knights because all their models are just so big and expensive that it'd probably be better. I'm trying to give solutions, not just bitch. I'm trying to give solutions to things. If they gave a, I know, they could almost just double up the buffs for their whole like dread range shit. Instead of -1 leadership, it's like -2. And then all the penalties and damage stuff, they just make it better by twice. I think that'd be good enough. Because your playstyle doesn't change, you wouldn't want it to really change. And it's staying unique, yeah. They just need more oomph. And their unique thing is cool, it just doesn't work because you need to get into melee with someone and also have them have low leadership. And it's like they also need to not be dead. So if you bring shooting, it doesn't really work. Like, yeah. Iron Warriors, I'm touching them again. You bring them if you want to just shoot with a bunch of heavy stuff. Havocs have always been cool because they're T5 and they can move and shoot, similar to Iron Warriors, Iron Hands without penalty. If you really want, you can give them a buff like Mark of Tzeentch, so they can turn one attack into 0, depending on what your opponent shoots them with. Or Nurgle, so Strength 5 and Strength 10 get -1 to wound, but because they're T5, it's better, in my opinion, to go Tzeentch. I don't really talk about the marks, but I'm not gonna for Chaos. I want, if Obliterators weren't ass, Obliterators need core, and they just need to be better. If I messed up on anything in this video and I said the wrong thing, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do this all while staring at this one screen. Yeah, I think if Obliterators got better, I would change things. I would take Abaddon out. It's just very upsetting to me. That similar to Imperial Fist, they're good against like building vehicle and shit, but it's like no one who brings buildings. I did bring once a building as a meta thing option for Sisters way back because you could get a lot more Miracle Dice, but because of the Miracle Dice change, it's not necessary. Yeah, they just need a bit more love. It's just the Obliterators. All these armies could get improvements to bring down the issue, which is cookie cutter spam, best thing, and make it more unique and embracing their unique changes and differences. Or having variability, but as it stands, there's just too many things have cookie cutter or you spam the best thing. Tau, because the flyer changes, people aren't really going to be bringing their, was it Sunfire Shark? Whatever flyer anymore. And Crisis Suits are still good. They nerfed them, but like, still gonna bring them. I no longer have my Flame Spam one. That list was cool and funny, but because of the change made to Tau, that was a 180 point deficit. So you'd have to stop your list at 1820 before the point change went through because of the point increases. So it's an extra 180 points that you're losing out on now if you spam 18 Crisis Suits versus 6 or 5. So it's such a pain. I wanted them to buff the other things, but they haven't. They just nerfed Crisis Suits. But they're still the better option to take. So you just take one big thing of Crisis Suits now, and Tau Sept, so you can get Long Strike to buff another Hammerhead, or the Crisis Suits, because if you buff the Crisis Suits, they actually are split fire machines, because then everything they shoot at counts as having a marker light, which is better in my opinion, instead of just buffing that other Hammerhead. So for round 1, you buff the fucking Crisis Suits, and if you're lucky, your opponent tried to go across the board and was in range of the Fusion Blasters now, and you can just shoot whatever the fuck you want. Motka or Kayun, don't matter. Just be 18 inches away and destroy everything. And because you can bring another commander, you could do some other funny business, like bringing 3 commanders in what's his name? Oh, my British friend plays them. Dude with magic sword. Feels bad, but Monka guy. But yeah, you could do some other funny business with Tau, but unfortunately, because they changed a while back how the Overwatch strat works, so you can't like Overwatch with everything anymore. I don't think it's incentivized to bring a lot of the troops, and you no longer need the troop tax, so people aren't gonna. But if you're not going full flamer, then your shooting kinda is actually bad, so you need a marker light spam. But your better thing for shooting is crisis suits, so it was a bit of a indirect fuck you to Tau, because hey, you don't have to bring troops anymore, but we're gonna make your really good non-troop ish and troops, because it wasn't just crisis, with stealth as well and other stuff. Crisis bodyguard cost more, so get fucked. Gundams, they're cool. They're the big shooting lane army game where you just have a lot of strong shooting. Now again, so I like 2 commanders, and then I bring an ethereal and long strike, and I just buff the fuck out of them. Give them like 12 shield drones. If your opponent has some shenanigans to fuck up your crisis suits in 1 to 2 rounds, you lose. If they don't, you probably win. I remember I got humbled by this one opponent I played because he had fucking grenades, like 10 fucking grenades or 20 grenades or some nonsense with or more with Krieg dudes, grenadiers, before they got phased out, and they just destroyed my crisis suits. So that was very humbling. But yeah, the Tau, I think a lot of their stuff needs to get more buffed. And for some of the, again, I'm going to talk about the tournament meta. A lot of people only look at that list and they don't look at anything else. They're like, oh, it's a strong faction because people play it and they win. Now, hear me out. People are playing it and they're winning. That's objectively true. But what if people didn't have options to get other models? They weren't able to go that day. Maybe they're a bad player. There's a lot of variables here. And you're not looking at them because you're being monkey brain and only looking at the end number. The end number is an important number, but that's tournaments. That doesn't go into everything else. There's a lot of people that have tournament play will go to TTS, and they'll get humbled by the TTS players that they'll play because they could be pretty competitive good. And a lot of people may not have options in time also to sink in because it's a crazy long hobby. I'm spending over an hour now even just talking about it, making a video. I'm a nobody YouTuber. So, Tau are good, but I don't think they're as good as people think they are. They're average. They're not competitive tier. They still might be competitive tier, I think, maybe, along with Harlequins, maybe, for, like, the metadata. That's because a lot of people are playing them. A lot of people aren't playing some of these other armies that are actually probably better than people think, but they're just not playing them. And because people only play these certain meta armies, people are building against only those meta armies. Or they're only building that certain way. Also, a lot of secondaries aren't that amazing. Some are over the top, but most of them have been toned down. So the game is slowly transitioning back into a kill phase type game. And with that said, I think I've reviewed all of them. Most of the ones are here how they should be. I think Craft World is the only one I would move up actually to D after giving it some thought. A lot of them are getting small buffs or some along the way. Scratch that, some of them are. Like World Eaters, Imperial Fist and shit. Some of them are not. Some stuff is weird, like the Necron's OPSEC thing, when you just go Nihilek and stuff like that. Oh, I remember another one for, real quick, for Armor of Contempt. Brood Brother Guardsman in Gene Stealer Cult got Armor of Contempt. You could be Gene Stealers with half to 2/3 of your army or more getting Armor of Contempt because they're guardsmen. That was funny as fuck. And you could still, unless I'm mistaken, I think you could still do tank orders back in the day. You can't do that anymore with tank commanders. That was also funny. Yeah, so I think I want to do another Militarum game. I've only done one. I have in my Militarum army currently, I have Leontis, And I have Ursula Creed, and I have Attilan Rough Riders Casterkin. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure 3 out of those 4, or all 4 of them, are not officially released IRL. So we have their leaked data sheet, or like, from pre-orders and stuff and other nonsense. So we know how they should be. The codex is eventually going to come out. I thought it was already out, or it could be out, and I'm just mistaken. I'm not sure. Like, I'm so busy with doing other things. Like I said, I'm trying to get another job. I was juggling 2 to 3 jobs, then I went back down to 0, all very abruptly, and so I've just been back and forth. I had to get a loan, which I feel very bad about. I'm just struggling for cash right now. It's really bad. But fuck California rent. $2,000 a month for a 2,000 with utilities and everything. It's like $2,500 for renting a 1-bedroom. It's not even a great area. Sorry. If people have recommendations, criticisms, constructive or not, requests, or any delightful comments, I always enjoy humble feedback and good-natured stuff. Feel free to comment down below, like, share, and subscribe if you like the content I make. As I said, I have an Astro Meltarm thing, and I played one game and I want to play another game. I sized the models so they should be correct to play, and everything should be groovy. But if the stuff's not officially out, double check with yourself, like, and your opponent, to see if they're cool with that. And then depending on the guard changes, they could be bumped down along with other things. Iron Hands, you could play a lot of Dreadnought spam. Core not. Dreadnoughts, for the most part, aren't T8. And they don't have a 2-up save, so I have to take issue with it for a large degree. Venerables have a 2-up to hit, I think. One of them has a 2-up to hit, another one has a 2-up save. I can't remember if it's between Leviathan and Venerable and some other shit. So it can make a bit more of a difference for the reroll hits of 1 because they already hit on 2. So there's that. You can also build more versus my list, Eradicators and other stuff. Make use of that. I think it is better to lean into the infantry because you can make better use of their moving out of OBSEC, and you can hide them better depending, or at least get like cover and shit. With that said, is there anything else for me to talk about? Yeah, if anybody wants to play a game, I'm definitely down to take requests. Schedule a game to play on TTS. I'm definitely down. I was sick with COVID. I was super sick. I'm starting to get much better. I'm like 100% better now. We're close to it. I was worrying about money, but I got some help. Yeah, I think that's most of the main shit. There's a lot of armies I'd like to play on here. Most of the CSM I don't really give a shit about playing because they're all pretty cookie cuttery. I was able to play a small game of Black Legion, which is fun, with Abaddon getting juiced, and he's just fun. Abaddon is such a scene stealer. He's so fun to play. A lot of the psychic stuff I don't really care about. Tyranids were fun to play, but they're just kind of strong and don't interest me. I kind of want to play an Emperor's Children. I'm going through right now. Iron Hands would be fun just to obliterate someone. Astromel, but again, it's just absurdly strong. It's S tier right now. Astromel Tarm, while strong, it's just so variant. I want to play a bit more out of it because it just still feels so fresh and new and different to me. Grey Knights, no, I'm good. Blood Angels, no, I'm good. Black Legion, a little bit. Just want to mess around with Abaddon again. Dark Angels, it's simple. But like that's gonna probably have my opponent be doing a lot of stuff. I did also just change it. I loved having a bunch of my Relic Terminators, but because of the point changes and stuff, I think, and because of Armor Temp being on, I think it's better to go back to Deathwing Knights. And because of that, I don't have all the fucking Lightning Claw spam anymore, which was fucking hilarious, which makes me sad, because that shit was funny as fuck. But yeah, Storm Shields are fucking nutty, because now they have a 4-up invul against all this Melta stuff. It still doesn't matter if you're not on light cover, and you still have trans and shit, perma. Thousand Suns, no, I'm good. Demons Undivided, I want to play one game as that. Just because the Monster Mash list is just still so fun with the 3 greater demons of Be'lakor, Lord of Change, and Bloodthirster. Imperial Knights, I'm good. My friend has a really good Imperial Knights list. That's one of 2 lists I actually adopted from someone else that one and the Demons Undivided when someone explained to me, because I thought they had an illegal list, but it turns out it was legal. It's just non-Be'lakor AOR. Um, yeah, that's really good, but it doesn't really interest me to personally play it. Adeptus Sororitas, I've played a lot. I'm kind of good. Salamanders, maybe. I'm kind of good, though. Custodes, maybe. I play them a lot. Ultramarines, not really. Maybe. I think it's like Diet Iron Hands. Just go full Iron Hands. Emperor's Children, yes, I want to play them because I think it's funny that they are like all their regular dudes have chainswords, and then they just have a Blastmaster as well. And so if you want to get rid of the Blastmaster, you have to go through 8 wounds of regular guys. So it's effectively a 10 wound Blastmaster because that's who really matters. Tyranids, I'm good. Played that same shit. Leagues of Votann, they honestly don't interest me. I think they're cool. And I've played it, again, I've played all these armies at least once. Since the change, fuck no. Now I have no longer done that. But overall, I've played every faction army once, at least once or more. The big cannon shooting thing is cool, but I don't know. Hunter is fun. If you underestimate them, they could do funny business. Necrons, even though I play them a lot, I kind of want to play them again. Red Corsairs, kind of good. White Scars, kind of good. Harlequins, I'm good. Admech, no. Night Lords, no. Orcs, I still have a little bit of crush on them. I want to play them. Them greenskins. Boy, it's just run up and do melee. Corn Demons, same shit, no. Tzeentch Demons, no. Space Wolves, no. Deathwatch, yes, because I still stand by. It's a Chad army, and I think they're really good and underrated. It's just nobody plays them because you have to put a lot more thought into it. And so if you get smart at the game, which I like to think I am if I try, if I become sweaty and activate the neckbeard mode, then you have a lot of options available to you for, like, I think I'm going to be advanced in charge this round. And what? You just do all kinds of stupid business. Or Devastator, it's like, yeah, we're Iron Hands. We're just going to have all heavy rolls and stuff. Or Tactical, we're just going to be all Salamanders, so I'll get +1 to wound on my heavy stuff. What? What? Oh, actually, that's their other thing, not their chapter tactic. I forget what the Salamander. I think can't reroll wounds and some other thing. Alpha Legion, nope. Creation's Battle, nope. Word Bearers, nope. Black Templars, nope. Yunari, unfortunately, nope. Drukhari, nope. Tau, probably no. Iron Warriors, no. Chaos Knights, maybe. Gene Stealer Cult, maybe. Probably not. World Eaters, no. Raven Guard, no. Nurgle Demons, no. Slash Demons, no. Death Guard, no. Craft World, no. Imperial Fist, yes. I definitely want to play Imperial Fist. I've been having this weird urge to play Fist, just because, like, the amount of bolter they have and exploding sixes, I just think is hilarious. I will end up probably just playing another game as Iron Hands and Astral Militarum, just because they're so strong. I think, it is fun to chase the meta a bit. Just play something really strong, dumpster somebody, and be like, alright, that was fun, and then just not touch it again. Because it's OP. Like, it needs a nerf. And so it is fun to do that, win a game, and not have to try. I don't want to be cringe, but, it's very fucking true. It makes me think of when I started playing, and I realized for 8th edition Hiveguard how disgusting they were. I'm like, oh, yes. And it was like Kraken or whatever the shooting faction was. It's like, oh, yes. Let me just... And people bring, oh, here's my 5 to 6 Hiveguard, and you just buff them up and blah, 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 blah. I'm like... Or, hear me out, you still do that, but what if you bring another 10 or 12? and bring exocrines on top of that. Haha. Fight me, bro. And then you just move up with your chaff to hold points and just blow everyone else out of the water. If they're not hiding, exocrines. If they are hiding, Hiveguard. And you deal mortals, extra exploding hits, all kinds of stuff. And it was just so disgusting. It was disgustingly oppressive and needed to get nerfed. And I'm glad it did. But, like, I'm just, like, trying to think about some of the more OP shit I've seen. In the last year and a half, that since I started playing, I still think that's probably the strongest thing I've seen. Tzeentch Flamers would be top 5 still after this year and a half. I think in the 2-year span, Tzeentch Flamers would be top 5. Hiveguard would be top 5.
Mm, the Zinch Flamers and the Demons Undivided specifically are also just was nutty. Nothing else. Oh, Harlequins when they were initially released as a whole, disgusting. That's top 5. That might be the top 3 right there. I understand Creations of Bile was strong, but like they weren't Harlequin release strong. Not even close. Yeah, that's probably the top 3 things in the last 2 years for how disgustingly powerful they fucking were. Like nothing realistically comes close to that. The only thing that would be up there is for Crusade, 8th edition Tzeentch Demon Horrors, because they were fucking, their split was free. So you could have an extra like 400 to 500 models in the game, and they all have OBSEC, and it was fucking free. You didn't have to pay for it, and it was guaranteed. No, none of this 4-up shit. Yeah, so that got fixed, and Crusade Sisters is still jank, but because of the cost for war gear, but they've decreased war gear costs for a lot of things, so now it's not as much of a thing. Yeah, Iron Hands, current Iron Hands, current Imperial Guard are both stupid S tier. Hive Guard 8th edition, and then release Harlequins, and Chaos Undivided with Tzeentch Flamers. Those are probably the top 5 things in the last 2 years. For the next maybe 9 months as well. I don't know if they're going to do anything to put anything else crazy in S tier, but those were really insane. With that, I think I've ranted long enough. Again, I'll try to put some more Warhammer content videos out. I'm going to start reviewing the armies like I've said I've been going to do for the last like 4 or 5 months. I just kept waiting on more and more things to happen. Codices to come out, codices, point changes, etc. I mean, being sick and not sick. I don't know if I'm going to do any tonight because my throat is massively dry now. Because I've been talking before this now, and I'm going to be talking with some friends hopefully after. But, yeah. If people want to play any of these armies, again, I recommend you play Craft World and I forget what was the other one. Gene Stealer Cult to get good at the game. If you want to be very simple monkey brain, then play like Custodes. Or Chaos Knights. They're very simple also. Those are very simple, but they won't help you get as good as quickly. But they'll be very much more comfortable to play as because it's low model count / low unit count, and your shit's strong, so you'll outtrade some things as you fight, but you'll get worn down over time. And if you want to just absolutely stomp people, Iron Hands and Master Motarm right now. I disagree with how people put down Grey Knights and Thousand Sons. Oh, they're not that great. They're not that great. I maintain that you're wrong. Grey Knights, their weapons are 2 damage. So they're better than regular Space Marine Power Swords, Nemesis Swords, and they can get even stronger. They're all Psychers, and they can do psychic shit. Yeah, Abhor the Witch is good against them. No shit. You're going to tell me next that Bring It Down is good against Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights. Wow, I never would have fucking thought. Well, aren't you the smartest person in the room? But the other weapons and stuff they can do and options are just so good. Grey Knights have better characters than the Thousand Sons do. The Thousand Sons have a bit better casting in general, excluding Purifying Flame. And their Terminators are also just so much better than Paladins. And the Brotherhood Terminators are. And so they're just, I don't know. Every time anyone's ever said, oh, they're not that great, yes, there's armies list / faction / whatever that are better than they are. They're not the best, but they're still competitive, and because they do mortals, they're insane. Along with Tyranids. Tyranids pass them, but because the Zone throw heavy point nerfs, I think Thousand Sons have regained the reins of the number 1 Psyker faction. Because Tyranids actually passed them. Tyranids had so much. They had insane melee, shooting, and psychic, so they need to get nerfed. They're still good in other regards. They've just been toned down, which was very much needed. If they didn't get the tone down for the point nerfs, they'd be S tier as well, 100%. My Husky's name is Ash.
she and me wish everyone a happy Christmas, happy New Year, and stay safe and game on, gamers.
Take care. Let's see how long this was. Over 2 hours. Good lord.